Hey, it's Suze, and welcome to tonight's episode of Keep the Bad Guys Away. Hey, you know, I've talked about this book, Terrorism and Homeland Security, in some of my other videos. I want to show it to you. I actually got it on Amazon Prime. Now, I want to let you know that this is the 8th edition of it, and this is the 3rd copy of this book that I've had. I had the 7th edition, and if you want evidence that I really owned it, you'd have to watch an old video of mine called Marshalls. I think it's actually on my other YouTube channel, Susan C. Knisely, but you'll see the 7th edition. It has a white cover. So this is the 8th edition. This is the 2nd time that I've owned the 8th edition. The 3rd time that I've owned this book in the last 2 years. Now, you know, the first time I lost it, it was, I should say, the first time it was ripped off from me in organized crime was actually down in Los Angeles. So the 7th edition got ripped off somewhere down in Los Angeles. I bought the 8th edition up in Alaska, and then it most recently got ripped off based on a bunch of police scams, McAllen PD. I don't know what the hell to think about the Hidalgo Sheriff's Office, but I think it was more the McAllen PD and then the Harlingen Police Department, you know, that whole little damn organized crime scam that just happened a few months ago down in Texas. And boy, I mean, I just really have to emphasize that U.S. Border Patrol was pissed over the whole situation. I mean, have you ever seen a mad U.S. Border Patrol agent? You know, I mean, okay, so he wasn't mad at me. What happened was that, you know, the cops treated me like shit, as usual, like they normally treat me like shit. And so I was on a street corner and I saw a U.S. Border Patrol agent across the street, and so I flagged him down and explained the current situation. And boy, I mean, I'll never forget the look on Agent Trevino's face. Boy, he was just mad as hell, and he called the Harlingen police back. I don't know what the heck the Harlingen police told Agent Trevino, but I'll just never forget. He said, "Excuse me, she's a crime victim." So, you know, the cops down in Harlingen, Texas, like most of the police in America, are corrupt and corrupt assholes. But anyway, so, and of course it wouldn't help me recover the other copy of this book. You know, the police wouldn't, down in Texas, the 8th edition of Terrorism and Homeland Security. And, you know, I had to get out of there before U.S. Border Patrol and Border Intelligence, you know, maybe had time to do anything. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they'll find it one day. You know, I mean, I don't know. It's that whole mess down in Harlingen, Texas, very, very dangerous. Guy that's connected into some kind of drug trafficking going up through Chicago, and then some connections into North Carolina and stuff like that, family members and so forth. So, I mean, it's just way too dangerous for, you know, for me at that point to even see if Border Patrol could help me get it. And then, of course, I always have to investigate the cops. So, but anyway, this is the 3rd time that I've had this book. Now, I want to really highlight some of the great parts of this book. And specifically, Chapter 15, Homeland Security and Constitutional Issues. Now, Homeland Security is a descriptive term, so don't always think of Homeland Security as being DHS, just general Homeland Security, because, you know, in it, it talks about the USA Patriot Act of 2001. You know, that is not like a Homeland Security initiative. That is a congressional, you know, law, corrupt law that they passed. And basically all it does is help the FBI. You know, it talks about terrorism in the Constitution, civil liberties and federal power, civil liberties and police work, and some of the controversies, and talked about the difference between law enforcement, intelligence, and so forth. But this is a most excellent book. It costs about $100, so it's not cheap. So we're talking like Susan spent about $300 on this book over the last couple years, based on organized government crime and corrupt cops. But if you don't know anything at all about terrorism, now remember, now my education, I'm a registered nurse, so I know about terrorism from being a victim of terrorism, but not necessarily all the ins and outs of it. I've had to actually do a lot of reading myself. So if you know nothing about terrorism in general, if you're an everyday person, or even if you're law enforcement, this is the book to start with, because it is actually a textbook. People use this in their classrooms, so they have instructor manuals and so forth. But this, you know, you can get a preview. They actually have a Kindle version of it. I like the real text version of it because I do a lot of, cross-referencing and so forth, and it's just easier for me to do by having a real book. But it really is an excellent introduction to the concept of terrorism and then just Homeland Security in general. It talks about some of the differences between how, like I said, different law enforcement agencies work. Highly recommended. I mean, you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes and Noble. I prefer Amazon. A couple of the other chapters it highlights terrorism in historical and social context, international terrorism, national and ethnic movements, international terrorism, ideological and religious movements, domestic terrorism and homeland security. Remember, homeland security, that's like a keyword. Terrorism in the media, the organization and financing of terrorism. Remember, I've talked about some of my other videos, talk about, the jacked up child support case, because my son is actually the son of a terrorist. So it does, and I've talked about the terrorism financing issue, definancing terrorist organizations, definancing Al-Qaeda, and so forth. Well, there's a whole chapter 3 is about that. Great read, highly recommended. Now, like I said, this is the 3rd time I bought this book. And, God forbid, if I come home from work and this book is gone, I'm telling you, I'm going to really blast the hell out of somebody. Well, of course, first people I'm going to call is I'm going to call Homeland Security. I'm going to call 1-866-DHS to ICE. Then I'm going to call my agents. Because I have lots of Homeland Security agents, but God forbid you are not taking this book. And if you try to come near my stuff, you try to hack my stuff or steal my stuff, FBI or corrupt cops or your damn task forces and all this shit, I'm telling you, you're going to get it. So I'm warning you in advance. You take my shit, you take my book, I'm calling Homeland Security. And remember, they look into everything. If anyone tries to physically come after me and get it, they're getting blasted with a stun gun. So, but anyway, highly recommended read. Terrorism and Homeland Security, Jonathan R. White. You can get it everywhere. So that's tonight's episode of Keep the Bad Guys Away. See you next time.